Sophy Ridge's interview, in fact, not only featured Lisa Nandy, but also Suella Braverman and the CEO of the Dover Port. Let's go through them. The CEO of the Dover Port makes it quite clear that Brexit changes, post-Brexit, what he calls post-Brexit checks, are causing delays. And because of more passengers in a holiday period, there's a bigger delay, a bigger queue, people waiting 12 hours in a coach because there are so many people in that coach who each have to have their individual passport checked. And it will get worse, of course. And the French recommended installing extra checkpoints, but the British didn't bother. The British, the Brexiteers particularly, are busy blaming the French for the delays. Suella Braverman, we notice, blames the ferry companies. She says there are acute times when there's a lot of pressure, always going to be a backup and a backlog. She uses both words, backup and backlog. And a backlog, incidentally, is a technical word. It's for the log that you stick on the back of a fire that slowly burns, and then you put the more vigorously burning wood in front of it and around it. The backlog remains alight during the night. You cover the backlog in a medieval house with the curfew, with the box that keeps the backlog just alight so that in the morning the fire starts quickly. How interesting how these words progress into the English language. Braverman effectively says it's the ferry companies who have to process these passports. It's actually not true. It's not the ferry companies who are processing the passports. It's the Coast Guard. It's the system. It's the system of Brexit. It's the border control which is processing these passports. It's not the ferry company's fault. It's actually not France's fault. It's actually Brexit's fault. And that's something that Lisa Nandy, who was also interviewed, should probably also have said, but she didn't. She said what I say, and I will keep repeating it. I didn't vote for Brexit. I'm not a die in the what is the expression? Die in the sack or something. Remainer. I'm not. I think in every part of our life we deal with the cards we've been dealt. There, we've got two metaphors I probably got wrong. I probably got both of those images wrong. But we deal with the cards we've been dealt. We've been dealt the Brexit card, so it's our job to make sure that it works. Not in some mad Mrs. May bureaucratic approach where we use words which we actually expect to have different meanings for different people. No, all the words mean the same for everybody. Nobody is deceived by the language. That's the point of a good treaty. That's the point of a good law, that it is clear in what it sets out to do and what it achieves. We should have achieved a feasible Brexit. Instead, we haven't, because we haven't built enough places to process passports. And once we get biometrics in, it's going to get so much worse. Everybody's going to have to queue up, have their biometrics, fingerprints and bits and pieces checked against their passport. It's not going to be possible to give all your passports to the bus driver and expect it to be processed. Not possible. And you're going to be waiting hours and hours and hours to go through the single barrier. Because it's absurd, because we haven't planned. And that's what Lisa Nandy quite wisely said. She didn't say, oh, it's the fault of Brexit. She said, no. She said, it's a failure to plan. A failure to plan. And that's perfectly reasonable. I mean, if I could turn the clock back, would I? At this point, no. No. If I could turn time back, I would. But reversing what we've already achieved, reversing what we've already done is a waste of time. We need to tighten our belt and get on with what we've done. So yes, Brexit is entirely to blame. And the Labour Party has planned to get votes by freezing council tax and condoning Brexit. Well, I'm not sure that's exactly the best way to do it. It's a little bit cheap. If it wants seats, that's that's one way. I mean, it's not going to. Whether I vote for Brexit, whether I vote for Labour or for the Conservatives or whoever I vote for, is irrelevant. In fact, I belong to a safe Conservative seat, so my vote is irrelevant in this particular scenario. I would like to see a lot of the current Conservative ministers out of a job. I'm not completely convinced yet that the Labour Party is ready for government, but I think it's going to have to get ready because it will be elected. And then it needs to decide what it's going to do, because I think it's facing the same set of challenges that the current Conservative Party is facing. It has to make Brexit work. And that means you have to dump all the rhetoric of Mr. Heseltine, all the rhetoric of the YouTube advocates of Remain. You have to dump all that and you have to deal with the reality that we've got. The reality that we've got is we are living in a post-Brexit world. Now, I think we have two jobs to do. Number one is to make the Brexit bureaucracy work efficiently and meaningfully, and what we say is exactly what we mean. No messing around with words. And number two, we have to make sure that the relationships we had before are as good as they were before, and that we take advantage of the post-Brexit situation to create better relationships with other people beyond the European Union and independently of the European Union. That shouldn't be too big a call for any government, but it certainly seems to be beyond the present one.